As someone who works full-time with the commute and has a family to take care of, you don't have time or energy to devote hours in the kitchen trying to whip up dinner for the family. That's exactly why I created my ultimate kitchen guide for quick and easy meals. In this guide, you'll find a list of foods that you should have on hand in your kitchen on a regular basis, along with tips on how to put things together on your plate to create a balanced anti inflammatory meal. Imagine a world where you can come home and whip up a healthy meal in like 20 to 30 minutes and still have time to kick your feet up on the couch and catch up on your shows before bed. Yes, it's not a dream, it's your new reality. All you have to do is head to www.betterwithcarbo.com/guide and grab your free copy today. That's betterwithcarbo.com/guide. Get ready for healthier meals with less kitchen stress. No one likes how change feels. It doesn't feel good. To protect us, our bodies crave familiarity. It's comforting even when it's not serving us. You ever have like that one friend who dates the same trashy dude over and over again? The trash is what she knows. It's not helping her find a quality husband, but it's what she knows and it's comfort. Our bodies are wired to keep us comfortable and safe. So when you start making big moves to find new ways to comfort yourself that don't involve food, when you start looking for new health ingredients that are less inflammatory, it's uncomfortable and it's not a good feeling, but it is a good sign that you're growing and you're changing for the better. And with time, patience, acceptance, grace, support, and stress management, things will eventually begin to feel easier. I'm Krissy Carbo, registered dietitian and host of the Inflamed in the Brain podcast. Here we cut through the confusion and complexity of inflammatory health to deliver straightforward, bite-sized strategies and information you can easily apply to your life. Not too long ago, I was lost in a sea of information, overwhelmed by the challenges of inflammation. But through years of trial, education, and self-discovery, I learned to break free from the chaos of fad diets and cultivate a practical anti-inflammatory lifestyle that not only helped me stabilize my own diagnosis, but thrive with it. Whether you're an autoimmune warrior or simply seeking a healthier, uncomplicated life, you found your tribe. Join me as we explore realistic strategies that can make a profound difference in your life. So if you're ready to embrace a simpler, healthier way of living, you're in the right place, my friend. Let's dive in, learn, and grow together. Welcome to the Inflamed in the Brain podcast. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Inflamed in the Brain podcast. I'm Krissy, your host and dietitian, and I'm really happy that you're here today because I've had a lot on my mind recently in the last few weeks, and I want to share with you. So my son turned 1 last week, and I can't believe I have a 1-year-old, but it's true. Arthur is 1, and I've been finding myself reflecting and thinking a lot about how things were in the beginning compared to how they are now. And man, it's like a night and day difference. When I found out I was pregnant, I was nervous because I knew becoming a mother was hard, but at the same time, I thought to myself, I've done hard things before, so what's another hard thing? That hard thing didn't scare me so much. I was kind of excited to experience what creating human life felt like, what childbirth felt like, and I was excited to feel the feeling that everyone talks about when you meet your baby for the first time. Everyone talks about becoming a mom and having a baby being like this blissful and magical thing, but it was absolutely not that for me. For me, early motherhood was really hard, like really hard, the hardest thing that I've ever done. And I know I'm saying early motherhood like in the past tense, and some people might even argue that I still am in early motherhood despite having a 1-year-old, and I probably will be in early motherhood for a little while longer. But maybe to be a bit more specific, I mean like the first 6 months were incredibly hard. Between the actual chemical imbalance that your body goes through when the placenta leaves, but also having the anxiety that comes with doing something insanely life-changing, such as motherhood and breastfeeding, and your marriage changes, and it was just really hard, and it was humbling, and it was lonely, and Honestly, I felt like I was the only mom in the world that felt this way. I felt that there was something wrong with me because everyone was talking about how majestic and beautiful having a new baby is. And even in my situation, I felt like there was something wrong with me because everyone told me how lucky I was to have the baby that I had, that he wasn't too fussy, he wasn't too cranky, he wasn't loud, he wasn't colicky. And I know that everyone meant well, but at the same time, it made me feel like there was something wrong with me. I thought, am I the only one? Am I the only woman in the world that hates having a new baby? And after trying to like fish it out of other women, I realized that no, early motherhood actually does suck a lot. It sucks in the beginning, but it gets easier. And not only was I waiting for this thing to just magically come to me, I was also thinking, like, why doesn't anybody talk about this? Why doesn't anybody talk about how much this sucks? And looking back, there are some things that I wish I had known or realized earlier that would have helped me, made my experience better early on as a new mom. For the first few months of motherhood, I had this recurring clip in my head of Andy Samberg being interviewed by, I forget who, but he was talking about becoming a dad for the first time. And he was telling this person, like, when you tell people you're pregnant, everyone is like, get ready for magic, get ready to feel pure bliss. And then when you actually have a kid, everyone's like, welcome to hell. And I've had that clip on repeat on my mind for the first few months. I felt like almost like I was duped. Like, how come when people find out that you're pregnant? I mean, I can see why when people find out that you're pregnant, they're not telling you, oh my God, what a mistake you've made. I mean, unless they're an asshole, but people are more like congratulatory and excited about a new baby coming in. But it's not really talked about enough about how much of a struggle it really is the first few months, and sometimes even up to a year for some women, having this new thing in your life that, yes, it's an amazing thing that women get to create life, but also at the same time, it's really fucking hard. It's really, really hard. Like you're pregnant for 9 months, but it literally is like one day you're living your life one way, and then the next day your life is completely changed because you have this little thing now that you need to take care of, and your life is not yours anymore. It's now you and this little thing. And anyway, I'm digressing a little bit too much. The reason why that I'm sharing all of this with you is because I think you can relate, or at least find this a little helpful if you're in the thick of it right now with your health and you're trying to adapt a new life with a diagnosis and new health habits, because that's essentially what you're doing, right? You're creating a new you in lieu of these health issues. And that's exactly what motherhood forces you to do. It forces you to become a new version of yourself. It's no longer you. You're not who you were yesterday. Like, it's weird to explain a little bit, but you really are transforming in lieu of these major life changes. These are big, big life changes and shifts that are forcing you to transform and adapt and create new routines and habits. So today, I want to share with you some of the things that I learned during my first year of motherhood that are absolutely necessary when making any major life shift. And again, I learned these things after becoming a mom, but I really do think that these things that we're going to talk about today can really help you not only see the light at the end of the tunnel and see that things will get easier, but having these things in the midst of transformation can really make the experience of adapting to a new and healthier version of yourself feel a lot more manageable. Looking back, one of the things that I learned I needed more of that would have made my postpartum experience a little easier is acceptance. When I found out I was pregnant, I had really high expectations for myself. I was going to strictly breastfeed, no bottles, even if it was breast milk in the bottles. I wanted to strictly breastfeed my babe from baby to breast. I didn't want any help for the first 2 weeks because I wanted to bond with my baby and I wanted to learn how to take care of my own kid. And my God, was I humbled real quick after pushing this baby out. Around day 3 of becoming a new mom, my anxiety was at an all-time high. I've never felt anxiety like this before. Not only did I feel completely lost and like I had no idea what I was doing, but breastfeeding is a whole other beast in and of itself. I questioned absolutely everything. Is his latch good? Is he getting enough milk? Am I making enough milk for him? Is he in the right position? Am I being selfish for wanting to breastfeed my baby instead of just giving him a bottle and making him work for the milk? Not to mention that when you want to strictly breastfeed, you are the one who has to get up around the clock, middle of the night to feed the baby. I had no idea what I was doing. I felt guilty for asking for help and accepting help. I felt guilty for using bottles to feed him when I was really, really tired and just wanted a break because I felt like if I didn't breastfeed him, then we wouldn't bond. I felt incredibly guilty. I felt like a failure for not living up to my own expectations and straying away from my original parenting plan. And when you're in the thick of all of this, I don't think that there's much that people can say to make you feel better in that moment. It sounds a little strange to say, but honestly, I really do think that there are times where you feel so anxious and out of place and so lost that it's almost like nothing anyone says can make you feel better. And that's where I was. I mean, I had like people around me who would tell me that I was doing a good job, that I'm learning, reassuring you that you are a great mom. Nobody teaches you how to do these things. But none of it really made me feel better because of the anxiety that I had. I honestly thought that people were just telling me what I wanted to hear to try to make me feel better. But the thing is, if I had just accepted that things were hard, that they're supposed to be hard in this moment. It's not easy to birth out a baby, birth out a placenta that housed a lot of your hormones. So now you're going through this crazy chemical imbalance shift, also contributing to the crazy emotions and hormone imbalance and anxiety. That breastfeeding is not easy and it's not always blissful. And motherhood sometimes, and I think for most people, and more people that just don't admit it, does not come naturally. If I had accepted this as truth and accepted that this is hard and it's supposed to be hard, if I had just prepared myself to accept the help and accept that things will change. Not everything is going to go according to plan, especially when you have no idea how to parent or how to birth a baby. You can try to plan, but it's likely not going to go according to plan. If I had just accepted that this season of life is not meant to be easy as normal, it would have helped me not only with my anxiety, but it would have helped me enjoy the journey of early motherhood a little bit more. And this is important for motherhood as well as for any other journey that requires you to challenge yourself and adjust to daily habits and create new ones that work and align with this new transformation that you're trying to achieve. Discovering you have a diagnosis can be a real turning point. You're faced with a choice. You can rely solely on medication and hope for the best, or you can take a proactive step to support your body's natural healing process. And since you're listening to this podcast, you're likely in that latter category. You just don't want to sit back and pop a pill and take your doctor's word for it and cross your fingers and hope that everything is going to work out. You are determined to take control of your health and become a better and healthier version of yourself. But let's be real, it's not easy. It's not supposed to be easy by any means. Becoming a healthier version of yourself means confronting ingrained beliefs and behaviors that have been with you for as long as you can remember. Like if you're reaching for food when you're feeling bored or you're sad or you're tired, maybe it's blaming yourself for your diagnosis, thinking you somehow brought it on upon yourself. Recognizing and challenging these patterns isn't a walk in the park. It requires you to take an effort. It requires self reflection and it requires a willingness to embrace discomfort because change is uncomfortable. Your brain naturally doesn't want you to change, even if it means changing for the good. Your body craves for you to stay the same way because it's comfortable, it's familiar, it's safe. So to stay safe, just do the same things day in and day out, even if it doesn't serve you. And when you become a mom, you have no choice but to change. When you're diagnosed with something new, you have no choice but to change. So yeah, it feels uncomfortable and it makes everything feel 10 times harder. But once you accept that difficulty and you accept the discomfort and you accept that things won't go according to plan as natural parts of the journey, something shifts. You start to see the discomfort and the difficulty as signs of growth and positive change rather than obstacles. And once you begin to adopt healthier habits, the journey does become more manageable and even a little bit more enjoyable. You might start looking forward to going grocery shopping or cooking or moving your body. For me, it took me a little while, but when I started to accept that my baby waking up through the night is biologically a normal thing, he's not waking up because I'm doing something wrong. Breastfeeding is hard. It's not always easy. Him sleeping longer when he is on me, when I'm holding him, is not me spoiling him. It's, again, biologically a normal thing. I began to work with the challenge instead of against it. And I began to enjoy my baby. So, again, once you embrace acceptance and you just accept the fact that making change is hard, again, even if it is for the greater good of your health, things will feel more manageable. When it comes to making significant life changes, managing stress is key. And that's why stress management is number 2 on our list today. Not only does it help with the mental strain that change inevitably brings, but it's crucial for handling the physical toll that making change takes. When you're hit with a new health diagnosis, it's undeniably stressful, both mentally and physically. A diagnosis in and of itself is a physiological stress that your body is going through. And in those early weeks of early motherhood, I discovered the power of what I call the 5-minute rule. No matter how overwhelming things felt, I made a commitment to myself to take at least 5 minutes for some basic stress management. For me, that meant turning to breath work. It's simple, it's effective, and you don't need any fancy gadgets or apps. You just need yourself and your breath. And in those first few weeks, whenever things felt really rough and I felt like I was spiraling, I'd go to my room, close the door, splash cold water on my face, and practice boxed breathing. My dad actually taught me this because he was the one that I would call all the time when I felt super anxious. But it's a legit breathing technique where you inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, exhale for 4 seconds, and then hold for 4 seconds, and then you just repeat. So I would set a timer for 5 minutes and do that, and then return to whatever I was doing. Again, it's really, really simple, but it is effective and it does help bring you back from that spiral. We often hear about the negative impacts that stress has on our body, but when you're in the midst of a season of growth and change, all you really want to do is feel better. You're not thinking about, like, I have to manage stress in order to avoid inflammation. That's not what I was thinking at all during my early postpartum days. I just wanted to feel better. And when you're in the midst of change, you also just want to feel comfort. You want to feel good. And sometimes all it takes is a few minutes of focused breathing to clear your mind, lift your spirits, and keep you pushing forward. When you're navigating major life changes, having the right community and support system in place is also a very crucial thing. Looking back, I realized that I didn't fully grasp this at first. I actually went about it completely wrong. I had the idea that when my baby was born, I wanted to handle everything by myself for the first couple of weeks. I thought that I needed time to be by myself and let my natural instincts kick in and figure things out on my own. Spoiler alert, there were no natural instincts that kicked in to tell me how to take care of a baby. After just 3 days of being by myself with my husband, we were calling my mom for some backup. And let me tell you, as soon as she walked through the door, I'll never forget, she swooped in, took the baby, and practically ordered us to go to the room and go to sleep. I had to come to terms with the fact that accepting help isn't a sign of weakness. It's actually practical. It's one of those hard things for me that it takes work to recognize, and it takes a lot of effort to recognize and change it, because for me, I've had this ingrained belief that needing help somehow makes me less capable or weak or dumb, less intelligent. But I'm actively working on changing that mindset. The truth is that raising a child truly does take a village, and I'm grateful every day for the support of my parents and my uncle, who've literally been there for me and my son and my husband since day one. Sure, you could tough it out on your own through these really difficult, challenging times, but there's no prize for doing it by yourself. There's no prize for doing it alone. So why put yourself through it when you have, or you could have, the support and community around you that can make the journey feel so much more manageable? A few years ago, I read The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck by Mark Manson. And one of the key takeaways was that you're not special and your situation isn't unique. And it sounds a bit harsh, but essentially the bottom line is it's easier to handle life's challenges when you realize that there are countless of other people who've been through or are going through the same thing. My addition to that message is simple. Find those people. Connect with them. Learn from them. There's no need to reinvent the wheel, but it is crucial to find and surround yourself with the right kind of support and community. In the realm of parenting, for example, there are countless moms out there who will make you feel guilty and make you feel like you're doing everything wrong. They offer unsolicited advice. They leave you feeling more anxious and doubtful and overwhelmed. The same goes for the health space, the anti-inflammatory space. I can't even tell you how many anti-inflammatory and MS face groups I've joined just to leave them a couple of days later, or even immediately, because of some of these extreme views and recommendations that I was reading on these comments that made me feel super overwhelmed. Like, people were just reaching out looking for some helpful words, and people were telling them, you need to cut out sugar, you need to cut out gluten, you need to cut out dairy, you need to stop eating nightshades, you need to give up this, you need to give up that. And it was just like really, really overwhelming. So it's really, really important to curate your inner circle with care and surround yourself with people who are going to support you and encourage you through those really tough times. One last really important thing that I want to emphasize when you embark on major life changes is you need to be gentle and patient with yourself. It's important to remember that you're navigating uncharted territory. You've never done this before, whether it's a new diagnosis or, more recently in my case, motherhood. You've never done this before. It's okay to not have the answers right away. It doesn't make you dumb or incapable, and you're not dumb. You're just new. I struggled with this big time, especially as an anxious first-time mom caring for a newborn. Every little decision that I felt like I needed to make was urgent. Every time the baby cried, I felt like I made a mistake and he was crying because I did something wrong. But the reality is, I was just finding my own way as a new mom, and my baby was adjusting to life outside of the womb alongside with me. He didn't know how to speak, so crying was the only way that he can communicate with me, and I had to learn to figure out what he needed. We were both learning as we went. Taking better care of yourself during times of change is a learning process. You're absorbing new health information, you're adopting self-care practices, and you're adjusting your mindset and behaviors. Mistakes are inevitable, and progress isn't always a straight line up. So it's really important to give yourself some grace. Once you embrace this mindset, the pressure to be perfect starts to lift, and you can begin to appreciate the messy beauty of the journey that you're on. It's about accepting the bumps and detours along the way and finding joy in the process of growth and discovery. So be easy with yourself, give yourself some grace. You're doing the best you can, and that is good enough. Like I said a little earlier, no one likes how change feels. It doesn't feel good. To protect us, our bodies crave familiarity. It's comforting even when it's not serving us. You ever have like that one friend who dates the same trashy dude over and over again? The trash is what she knows. It's not helping her find a quality husband, but it's what she knows and it's comfort. Our bodies are wired to keep us comfortable and safe. So when you start making big moves to find new ways to comfort yourself that don't involve food, when you start looking for new health ingredients that are less inflammatory, it's uncomfortable and it's not a good feeling, but it is a good sign that you're growing and you're changing for the better. And with time, patience, acceptance, grace, support, and stress management, things will eventually begin to feel easier. I'm 1 year into being a mom, and it still is challenging at times and exhausting, but there's more predictability and familiarity, so things do feel a little bit easier at the moment. But he is growing so fast and always changing, so I need to learn to stay flexible and adapt as he changes. One last thing that I want to leave you with is not to compare yourself to where you are right now to someone else's right now. So what I mean is, if you're diagnosed with something and you're getting started learning about inflammatory foods, you don't want to compare yourself to someone who's been at it for 10 years. I know it's hard. I do it sometimes. I did it a lot, actually, in early motherhood, where I wasn't sleeping and I was comparing my mom experience to others who had 3 and 4-year-olds who were having so much fun and they were able to leave the house and do activities with their kids. And I felt jealous because they looked like they were enjoying their kids. Meanwhile, I was crying and extremely tired all the time. This made me feel really guilty, and it made me feel like a failure, and it made me feel like there was something wrong with me because I wasn't enjoying parenting. But don't bring yourself there. That person that you're looking at, that you're comparing yourself to, was once where you were. That person who is now talking about all of these fancy supplements and meal planning tips, they were once as clueless as you are, as uncomfortable as you are. So put your racehorse blinders on, run your own race. Things will get better and easier, I promise. I hope you found some value in this episode and that you're walking away with some practical strategies that you can begin to implement if you're in the midst of a really gritty and challenging season of life. If you did find this episode helpful, please share it with a friend who can also benefit from our little talk today. Don't forget to leave a review and reach out to me. I'm at Better with Carbo on Instagram. I'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to subscribe so that you don't miss out on any of our anti-inflammatory convos. Until next time, same place.